are within just a minute or so of starting. I think this has worked out the way. I hope some more folks come in that you can help me. I want everybody who is, and I'm not being funny here, I'm being serious. Anybody who is 25 and down to sit in this area. You don't have to move if you're not. No, you don't have to move. I just want them in this area.
25 and down.
25 and down. You know, anybody, you can sit. Oh, come on. Come on.
Are we talking age-wise or middle-wise?
It's not a, we're not segregating, I promise. Let's see. Maybe some more folks will come, some folks are coming in. I hope Gracie comes in. She's supposed to teach class. That's okay if she doesn't. I'll get somebody else to do it.
Are you volunteering?
Probably. Yeah. No, you guys stay out here because you're the team spokesperson.
No, I'm not.
Dakota, you've been nominated as team spokesperson.
Not even a teenager. So.
It's just a term. It's just a term. Okay. As we are waiting for a couple more to come in, we'll turn it over to Ethan in just a second. But I'm going to be honest, very few things leave me speechless. That's just my nature, I guess. But I was speechless for a moment this morning, or just a few minutes ago. If you are 25 years old and down, I want y'all to come this way. Oh, come on.
Now you let him go, you wouldn't let me go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I told you, come on. Thank y'all. No, you're not going to be put on the spot, I promise, unless I change my mind. But just a few minutes ago, I came home from my mom's, and I was moving my truck, actually, and somebody pulled up out there, somebody I did not know, and with a child. Found out he used to live here, doesn't live anymore, was at his mama's. Okay, but I walked over there and said, "How are you?" He said, "Great." He said, "I'm just going to get some of your holy water." Okay. Have a good day. I wasn't sure what to say. Now, a second thing, just for your enjoyment, my mother, Chris cleans our building here, right? Is that correct? But my mother still cleans the church building, Tishomingo, even though she's not able. But she does anyway. Well, she was fit to be tied. She came in, opened the doors, and the place had been vandalized. Let me finish. Hang on. Because everything had been, all the old last leader stuff on the shelves had all been raked in the floor. They'd knocked the preacher's fan off. They'd gone in the classroom and knocked everything down. But then, when she went into the women's restroom, she discovered a hole about this. It seems that a raccoon had chewed his way up through and gone through the place just looking for whatever he could find, knocking stuff over. Fortunately, the annex door where the food was locked. So he probably tried to open the door and got frustrated and left. But anyway, I can only imagine. Personally, I wish he'd been sitting there looking at her. But anyway, Ethan?
Don't you love your mother?
For 157. 157. On shore and stormy plains I stand and cast a wishful eye to gain
Let us pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for this beautiful day you've given us to gather here together and worship you. We just thank you so much for all the family gatherings and get-togethers today that went on. We just ask that this lesson be used to prick our hearts and help us learn more about you, Lord. In your name I pray. Amen.
Okay, Lisa is at home with what I'm afraid is a migraine, and she told me Gracie was supposed to fix the glass, but Gracie's not here. So is he?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, never mind. Good. Hudson? Hudson? Be on hold, Hudson. Okay. It is so good to see each of you tonight, and by asking those who are 25 years old and younger to sit in this direction, I promise there's nothing heavy about that, nothing to put you on the spot, I absolutely promise. But and we may have some who are listening tonight, who are watching online that aren't familiar with what we do on Sunday night, but we made the decision back beginning January the 1st to do some things on Sunday night which are a little bit different. Some things that are designed specifically for the express purpose of taking a Bible truth and breaking it down and applying it. Now, sometimes those things are meant to challenge you a little bit. Sometimes those things are meant to maybe dig a little deeper in your own mind, in your own heart, in your own Christianity. At no time is that ever meant to put anybody on the spot. Or if I ask a question, you don't have to answer it. You don't have to say anything out loud. It may be that everything you do in the privacy of your own heart, in your own study. But I do ask you to do this. Since we're making the effort to take a truth, dig deeper into it, and then apply it, I challenge you. It doesn't matter how many years you've been a Christian. It doesn't matter how you feel about the topic. Dig into it. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest speaker has arrived. Joey? Miss Gracie, you want to take? Okay, good.
I will come up here though, but I'm not gonna speak. I'm all right.
Okay. How old are you, Joey? You can't sit there if you're not under 25.
Oh, I'm way over that.
Okay, I'm kidding. Okay.
48?
Good. Now, I don't know if Hudson wants to go or not. He may be currently engaged. He'll think he's busy. If he's busy, he'll let you know. I think it's great. Okay. So, tonight for just a few minutes. You know, on Sunday night, we try to be a little less formal. And when Joe and I talked about this back before January, we talked about, okay, the goal is to get people to talk. The goal is to give you a chance. Now, if you don't talk, that's not a problem. The goal is for us to bounce some thoughts and ideas. And we're going to try to accomplish that tonight. Tonight, for just a little bit, we talked about the truth about the resurrection this morning. For just a little while tonight, I want us to think about the truth regarding my friends, my associations, my influencers, and my companions. Now, if you were in Bible class this morning, you will discover you're being summoned. Hudson, make her behave, okay? Hudson said, that's an unfamiliar term. Let me think about that. You know? Oh. I hope at no time that my messing with him bothered y'all. I hope not, because I meant what I said this morning about children. I'd rather hear children than I had the echo of an empty church building. One of the coolest things, I've got all kinds of stories. I've even got Hudson stories already. I've seen some things from up here that are just hilarious. But I was in the pulpit one Sunday night at Winnesoga, Sunday morning, I don't remember which. On the second row was a young one playing, much like he does, and he had a Hot Wheel. I don't know why, I must have said something that offended him. He decided to chunk that Hot Wheel at me, and it missed my head. I just kind of dodged it, and it bounced off the baptistry wall, and I just kept preaching. So, you never know. So, in Bible class this morning, in the adult class, we talked about those terms. My friends, my associations, my influencers, my companions. And so what we're going to do for just a little while tonight is talk about those on every level. Now don't say that I am, I'm up here and therefore, or up here as far as age, or I've already received, I've been receiving Social Security longer than you've been alive, or something and it doesn't apply to me. Okay, that sounded a little offensive. I didn't mean for it to sound quite that way. Before we get real serious, Elizabeth, something happened to me Friday that I don't know how to feel about. I feel good about it, but I got a letter from the Social Security Administration telling me that I'm almost ready to start drawing and when I can draw. No. So anyway, that was an eye-opening experience. Okay. So let's get serious for just a few minutes. First, let's decide what we're talking about. Doesn't matter what age you are, and you're going to help us unfold some things. Let's decide what we're talking about. When I say my friends, my associations, my influencers, my companions, anything, anyone, any group of anyone's that has some kind of pull, hold, influence on you, whether it's a close association, whether it's a group of people, whether it is something that is internet related. We talked this morning about YouTube influencers. You know what that meant. I've been educated. The idea of anything that has an influence on you, especially when it's a person or a group of persons. So please think seriously about that just for a second. I need 2 volunteers to give everybody who wants one of these. Thank you, sir. That would be 1. Thank you. I was afraid I was going to have to do what I have to do regularly in my classroom. And that is, for those of you new to planet Earth, let me explain. Me teacher, you student. Me say volunteer, you say me do it. Okay? So thank you very much. You don't have to write on this if you don't want to, but what I thought I would do is give you something to look at, because I will be honest, there are a couple of questions. There are a couple of questions on here that I want you to answer. I beg you to answer it. I challenge you, I implore you to answer it, but I don't want you to share your answer. You may not answer it until you're sitting at home, until you're studying next week. That is absolutely okay. So, thank you, gentlemen. So, let's look just for a moment. You'll see on your handout there's a couple of focus questions. Now, we may not answer these out loud. What are godly friends, associates, influencers, and companions? And what are ungodly friends, associations, influencers, companions? Well, how would you answer that question? How would you answer that question if somebody said, okay, what exactly is a godly friend? And don't say it's a friend who's godly. I know that. But what does it look like? What does it look like, a godly association? Okay? No silliness intended. But when I watch this group interact, especially after services, listen, I don't mean this in any bad way, but I've preached places before, been places before. Sometimes I stay after Sunday morning and work a little while. If on Sunday afternoon, it's quiet on Sunday afternoon in this church building. At Maud, it's not so much that way for a little while. Because y'all sit down when the prayer is said and start to visit and talk. Listen, I've been places that within 3 minutes after the closing prayer, you could lay down and take a nap. Because it's quiet and dark. The godly associations, that's what I'm talking about. What are those things? Hard to answer.
Those people whose example and life and thoughts and encouragements help you get closer to God.
Okay,
The
good
words and
answer.
actions. Words and actions of those people.
Yes, absolutely.
They care about your soul.
They care about your soul.
Care
Now,
about
what
their
are,
neighbor.
sir?
They care about their neighbor.
Yes. So, being with them makes you better spiritually, makes you stronger. What about this? What are ungodly friends or ungodly associations or ungodly influencers or ungodly companions? What does that look like?
It could be blatant people that you hang around with who are bad influences, but it could also be those that are kind of sneaky about it, that tend to try to influence you to do things you know you wouldn't do normally, but they don't really pressure you. They just kind of silently or quietly influence you.
Okay.
By things they do, things they say to make you feel like you need to or
Sure.
should or want to.
Now, we talk about, in fact, we'll look at a verse in just a minute, because we're going to move through this pretty fast. But please say something if you've got something to say. You know, Matthew 5:13, you're the salt. Salt influences the surroundings, right? Salt changes its surroundings, yes or no? Well, guess what? So does mold. One for the good, one for the not so good. So that's what we're talking about. Anybody else? This is just kind of the warm-up. Okay? Now, there are two Bible truths that I want you to take with you tonight. It doesn't matter what age you are. You may be parents who are influencing children that aren't even quite to that point yet. You may have grandchildren. You may have nieces, nephews. It may be you that needs to hear this. Bible truth number one, godly friends, godly associations, godly influencers, and godly companions make a spiritual difference in your life and to your soul. You believe that? Absolutely. Godly friends, godly associations, godly influences, and godly companions make a spiritual difference in your life. For example, Ecclesiastes 4, well, first of all, how? How would you answer that before we look at, don't want this to just be another sermon. You've already said some of it. How do they make a difference?
Set an example or like actually directly influence your choice, but even just having a good example of seeing somebody else in the way they approach various topics.
A good example?
Hold you accountable.
Hold you accountable? How would that influence, directly influence your choice?
Are you asking me specifically?
Yeah, well, anybody. I'm sorry, yes, but anybody.
Well, I mean, if it's like, per se, my friend group and stuff like that, they are the ones that when you're having those days you don't know what to do, or you're worried or upset or whatever, that support you, boost you up, they give you what you need to keep going.
Okay,
In the right direction, I should clarify that too.
very good. In the right direction. Yes, ma'am.
Push you in the right direction.
Push you in the right direction. Okay. Literally, and I don't mean literally push, but I mean actually influence you directly. Okay.
Sometimes literally.
Maybe sometimes literally. Okay. Ecclesiastes 4, 9 through 12. I've got the verses on there, but I want to look at them up here. Solomon, it's an interesting phrase, is this verse. Check it out. Two are better than one because they have a good reward for their toil. So two make the effort better. If they fall, one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him is alone when he falls, and has not another to lift him up. Again, if two lie together, they keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? For though a man might prevail against one who is alone, two will withstand him. In other words, the idea of safety in numbers kind of comes from this principle, but this is a much more important principle. The idea is we make each other better. That threefold cord, I love to use that illustration in premarital counseling. How many of you know what some of you may not, because now I think they use something different. But in the days of, by the way, any of you who want to really prepare yourself for everything else, when you graduate high school, you need to spend one summer hauling square-beled hay every day. It will change your life in so many ways. But anyway, do you know what seagrass rope is that they used to put around? Okay, did you know that those things are actually many, 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 many strands? If you unstrand that thing and you take that one little, it's pretty easy to snap. But have you ever tried to pull a seagrass rope in two? You can't. You can't. That's why they use it, because it's wrapped, and that's the idea there, that we make each other better. We work together. If I fall down and there's nobody holding me accountable, there's nobody to help me get up, Lisa's aunt continues, we're worried about her because she will not carry her phone with her, nor her cane, nor her walker, but continues to go outside. And her husband was in the garden, and she fell down and lay there for 30 minutes because nobody knew that she was there until a neighbor passed. But the concept is clear. If I fall down and I don't have somebody who cares about me, I'm in trouble. Okay, now let's look at another one. In Proverbs 27 and 17, I love this verse. Iron sharpens iron. You ever thought about that? Iron sharpens iron. The idea is that we make each other better. One man sharpens another. That's not a negative term. The idea that we make each other better. My friend and I, who have, Terry Smith, who have been privileged to be the directors of the July session of Maywood, it's been pushing, it's over 25 years now that we've directed, and we're to the point that he and I know each other. If you had seen us, sometimes you would think, how are those two actually functioning? Because one night, he just looked at me and said, "You're being childish, go to bed." I said, okay. We've got that relationship that we make each other better. You know, I've said to him, that won't work, you've lost your mind. And we work through things that way in that setting. Well, that's what Solomon's talking about, that we make each other better. And then in Hebrews 10 to verse 24, let us consider how to stir up one another. I love the way the ESV says that. Do you have someone in your life who stirs you up in a good way? Spiritually speaking. You need one. 1 Thessalonians 5:11, encourage one another and build one another up. Okay, wait a minute. We talk about, raise your hand, if you want to, if you need spiritual encouragement from time to time. Okay? Raise your hand if you need spiritual building up from time to time. Okay, if there are Christians who need the building and who need the encouraging, by virtue of default, there has to be those who are willing to do the encouraging or the building. Otherwise, it doesn't get done.
I think sometimes we can be both.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I get encouraged when I need it, but I can encourage you when you need it.
Absolutely. And Sister Loretta, that makes me think about that. How we actually help each other, sometimes at the exact same time. Okay, now here comes the rubber meets the road part of our program. Real life application. I want you to, please do not say this out loud. I don't want you to. You don't even have to write it down tonight. But I challenge you to actually do this. Identify one friend, one association, one influencer, one companion, or a combination of that, who is currently in your life right now, who has a godly spiritual impact on your life. And explain what that impact is and how that impact affects your spiritual life. Now, I apologize if that sounds like a question, a writing prompt on an English assignment. It actually does. But I don't mean for it to be that way. I want you, if you do it nowhere but up here, if you can explain, okay, here's this person, here's this group, maybe it's the ladies' Bible class, maybe it is the group of people those individuals, that person, now that I think about it, has this impact on me. And this is why it's important. If you can identify that, then you can build on that. And you can share that with other people. Plus the fact you're just thankful for it and you can recognize. Because you might realize some things you hadn't thought about before. So I'm not asking you to do that out loud. The application number one is think of one, whether it's an association, whether it's an influencer of some description, whether it's a companion, whether it's a friend group, doesn't matter, that has an impact on you positively, spiritually. It makes a difference in your life. Who is that? And why? What's the impact and why is it so important? Now, challenge you to think about that. And do that because it makes you stronger. It makes us stronger. Now, if I'm totally missing the boat, and I'm not just saying this, Lord, because we discussed this earlier, if I'm totally missing the boat with this, y'all tell me. Because if these are not, if what we're doing on Sunday night isn't working the way that in my head, because sometimes things in my head are working just great. But sometimes what's in my head doesn't meet reality. So, tell me. It's not going to hurt my feelings. Well, you probably will, but I get over it. Okay. Now, Bible truth number 2. This morning we talked about in Bible class how that there's positive, not just a negative, but Bible truth number 2 is, notice nothing's changed about that except one word. Ungodly friends, associations, influencers, companions make a spiritual difference in your life and your soul. So, godly influences, godly friends, godly associations, godly companions have an impact. They do. They make a difference in your life and to your soul. So do ungodly. So do ungodly. We're not going to read all of Psalm 1. We did in Bible class this morning. But verses 2 through 6 talk about the blessings to those who do not go in certain directions, and the blessings of those who go in God's direction, who are righteous. Psalm 1 and verse 1, blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers. That is, that wording, now you may say, oh, that sounds really good. That's great. I don't really know what it means, but it sounds great. It's this simple. And it applies to every one of you. Blessed is the person who doesn't walk in the counsel. Counsel is advice. Walk is a regular pathway. I don't make it a practice of getting my primary advice from someone I know doesn't have my soul going to heaven as their stands in the way of sinners. Stand is literally to stand in a place. The idea of the way is a regularly traveled path. So I am standing, I am being in the regularly traveled concourse of those who are not interested in going to heaven. So it is the fact that I find myself taking advice from those folks. I find myself traveling in the same circles as those folks. Now listen, before you say, time out, before you say, listen, I can't help where I work. I can't help who's in my class. I can't help who's a part of the, I don't have a choice. You're right. 1 Corinthians 5:10 makes that absolutely clear. He said not to company with fornicators. And he said, I don't mean the fornicators of the world. He said, because then you'd have to go out of the world. You'd have to live on the moon. And I got news for you. If you built a habitat on the moon to get away from sinners, guess who moves in next door in about a month? Because That's not what he's talking about. You putting yourself, sits in the seat of scoffers. Scoffers are those who mock they mock God, they mock the way of God, they mock anything that's godly. They can't stand up against the power of the truth, so they make fun of it. And the idea of sitting, what's cool about that Hebrew word, who sits in the seat, that word seat has the idea of a conference or a can't think of the word. The idea of a setting where you're discussing things. So in other words, you're putting yourself privy to into the regular discussion of those who are mocking God. Okay? Now, do you recognize once you see those words how that can have a negative effect? Do not be deceived, bad company ruins good morals. We need a team of scholars to explain that to us, don't we? We do not. We do not. I have a picture that I'm going to put in the slideshow for the class that I meant to bring, that I have on one of my opening screens. Every morning my class has an opening screen on the TV, and one of them has a box of strawberries. Ever had a box of strawberries? Anybody? I know what strawberries are, right? Okay. A box of strawberries. You ever had one in that box to go bad and mold? And what happened if you did not remove it? You mean the one next to it starts to mold? And then the one next to it? That is the illustration of that passage that you can't miss. And the idea of a little leaven leavens the whole lump. In other words, it does not take but a little to have a negative influence. So very simple. Ungodly associations, companions, friends, etc. They have an impact. Now, here's real life application number 2. Now, here's where it might get serious. Here's where you might don't want anybody else to see it, but your heart needs to see it. Will you be honest with this? I will. And I want you to look at this. Identify one friend, association, influencer, or companion. What is an influencer in your life right now? What is a friend group? What is an association? What is someone right now in your life who has an ungodly spiritual impact on your life? Shh, don't say it out loud. But if you're honest with yourself, it's there. What is that impact, and how does it affect you spiritually? Now, if you think about that and you're honest with it, then you realize you're going to have to do something about it. Don't forget the strawberries. Don't forget the idea. As a matter of fact, when I get home tonight, I'm not going to have this cool because my air conditioner is currently off because large puddles of water are forming under it. I don't think that's a good thing. And so I saw it and ignored it, and it has now run into the storage room and ruined some stuff of Lisa's. So I can't ignore it anymore. But the idea is, guess what the leak did when I ignored it? I just ignored it for a little while. I was going to call. It got bigger. It got worse. And its influence began to spread. It spread into this wall and then over here. And then if you can understand that, if you can understand what a box of rotting strawberries starts out as and looks like at the end result, then you understand that. And if you can identify something that goes in that blank on that handout, then you need to begin to prayerfully consider what needs to be done. Now, final call. This is why I had you ask. Final challenge number 1. Now, if nobody talks, then we'll be through real quick. If you had one, this is for those who are age 25 and up. Now, this is for those who are age 25 and up. If you had one piece of advice to give our teens and young adults, Dakota made it clear to me he's not a teenager, so I included young adults. See, I was thinking. Teens and young adults who are moving toward into adulthood, who are already there and moving further into it, if you had one piece of advice to give them about making wise choices, and I'm serious here, please be very thoughtful and serious with your answer, regarding friends, associations, influencers, and companions, what would that advice be?
I think the first thing is to make up your mind and decide early on what your beliefs, goals, and decisions for what you want for your life are, because that way it makes you less likely to be influenced in a different direction if you've already made up your mind what your boundaries and what your goals are. And then after that, you choose to be around those people that help you meet those goals, not take you away from them.
Are y'all hearing that? Are y'all hearing that? Y'all speak up, I want them to hear you. To you decide who you are up front or early. Is that what you, did I understand that right?
Make your decisions on what you're okay with, what you're not okay with, what you will do, what you won't do, based on what you believe and what you know to be right, and then that way you're less likely to be influenced by somebody else. So you go into a situation already having your own character set. Because you can be in those situations at some point in time, you will be in those situations at some point in time. If you already know this is not something I can do, then it's not a problem to say no.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. And that didn't mean that you were not talking loud enough. I just want them to hear.
I'm definitely always loud.
Come on, somebody else?
Stand firm in your faith, no matter what is out there to influence you. Stand firm in your faith.
Stand firm in your faith. This is not the exact one, but this volume of commentaries, I didn't realize something when I looked at it this morning. I was reading something for Bible class out of this one. My grandfather bought me this small volume of commentaries. My grandfather Carr, who was an elder for many years, when I graduated the School of Preaching, he bought me, in the very first one, I said, write something in it. Now, he was an iron worker from Reynolds. I said, write something in my book. What? I said, I don't care, just write something. And I didn't read it for a long time, and it simply says, you know the truth. Stand for it, even if you stand all by yourself. And he signed his name. And I didn't realize until this morning, it was dated July of 1989. He died in October of 89. So, anyway, have your own, very good, have your own faith. Anybody else? Yes?
I mean, they hear from me all the time. But,
That's okay.
I would just say, like, beyond that too, and they're actually really good at it already, but we weren't always when I was younger, form relationships with the older people here, like learn from the older Christians.
Okay. Anybody else?
Make sure really early on that you can be equally yoked with any future spouse.
Yes. Do you hear what he said? That you can be equally yoked with a future spouse. Yeah. And a side note, take it or leave it. It's absolutely free and probably worthless. But be careful about, I've heard people say, oh no, I'm just dating them, I'm not going to marry them. I don't even know how to respond to that. That's not a good way to approach things.
On
Very good. Yes.
all that, I just lost my train of thought. The person that's gonna influence you the most is your spouse, most of the time. And so, I would say, realize how valuable you are, and, that you're worth dying for. I don't know, I feel like we don't realize how valuable we are and important we are, and we kind of throw ourselves to the dogs, basically. And, we don't have high enough standards for who we do choose today.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You're worth more than that.
You are worth
far more than that. You know, your soul is who you are, and you are worth dying on the cross for it.
I think what he's saying is just be picky. You don't have to date everybody that asks, you don't have to date everybody that comes along just to have somebody to date. It's okay to not date somebody for a while.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The thing I would say too is be honest, and I mean that in two ways. Be honest with yourself on whether you really believe what you say you believe, and you really are gonna stand for what you say you stand for, but also be honest in what you say to other people. You don't have as much to keep up with, your life's a whole lot easier, you don't have to follow your laws around, it's just a much simpler life if you're just honest.
Absolutely. Very good. Thank y'all very much. Now, raise your hand if you are 25 years old or and under. Put your hands up if you're 25 years old and younger. Okay, now, if you're 25 and above, you cannot speak anymore. Please. Sorry, you can't.
What if somebody's just 25? Because you just included them.
If you're 25, you can be in this group. Okay? Yes? You raising your hand? Oh. Well, okay, Christopher, this is like an auction. If you put your hand up, you just bid on something. Okay? Good. I've had that happen. I'm sorry. You know, Christopher had his hand like that. I said, questions? It's almost like, what are you doing? You look at his hand like, what are you doing? No. So, okay. Now, this is for y'all. And I really wish you'd speak up. This is for y'all. I know we don't have any in the audience, but Vacation Bible School, we're about to have a building full of them. If you had one piece of advice to give our children who are moving closer to being teenagers with each passing birthday, whether y'all like that or not, it's true, about making wise spiritual choices regarding friends, associations, influencers, and companions, what would your advice be? Don't say that they're in kindergarten, they don't need to, oh, cool. Yes, they do. Let's remember, I teach in a public school. No, you don't want to know. It scares you. What would you say? Okay, y'all can't talk. It's just the 25s and under. What would you say to them about developing their own mechanism, their own choice mechanisms about the friends they choose, their associations? Yes.
Don't allow people to put you in a box.
Say that again. Sorry.
Don't allow people to put you in a box. Express yourself how you feel.
Very good. Now, if you didn't hear what Jade said, don't allow people to put you in a box to express yourself. Now, think about how that, because, look, I could name someone that all of you know who, I'm thinking of a student right now who struggles because she goes and sees a doctor that's helping her a great deal. And she's got another, a friend group that, to use the phrase the teacher used, they are mean-girling her. Y'all know what that is? Okay. About that. Okay, that's very good. Have your own identity. Well, you can't decide who you are spiritually if you don't know who you are. Very good. Anybody else? Come on. Yes?
Don't be desperate to hang out with people who you think are cool.
Don't be desperate to hang out with people who you think are cool. That comes back to being in a box. Validation.
Adding on to what she said, no matter how bad your friends will make you feel about doing something that you know is wrong, you've got to stick to what you know.
Very good.
And stick to what you believe in.
I don't know if it I'm trying to decide in my head if it fits what we're talking about, but there's a lot of kids. Why are you laughing over there, Jimmy?
Joey, how will you push?
There's a lot of kids that are born into families that aren't spiritually good. So you don't have to be what you're born into. It's okay to look for other people who can be that spiritual guidance that you need. You don't have to be stuck with what should be your moral compass in life. that that's not, if they're not good people, then you don't have to use that as, I don't know.
No, kids need to know that, don't they? They need to know that, absolutely. And they need people like you to tell them that and to let them know that. And you're going to see a bunch of them at Bible school. Very good. Anybody else? Anybody? Now, those of you who are wiser can now speak if you wish. Anything else you want to add?
We've got Hoyt and I have a friend who is 90 years old, and we're with him quite a bit, and at least once a month or so, he'll tell us, I don't know why he tells us, because we've been married 57 years, but he'll say, who you marry is going to define the rest of your life. So don't go to a bar to find your wife.
You can't argue with that logic. It's sound. It is absolutely sound. Well, no, I'm better not say that. You're absolutely right.
I'm gonna add to that.
Yes.
But also know that you need to really get to know the person that you are gonna marry, because even if you find them in church, they may not be who they pretend to be.
I'm glad you brought that up, because it is absolutely true. I hope she's not watching tonight, but true story. It is what it is. I hope the young lady's doing well. But my mother did not really want me to go out with Lisa because she was a member of the church. In fact, she didn't object, but she decided to connect me with the granddaughter of someone else who went to church Tishomingo, who was visiting, and so she's going to make that happen, because she was a member of the church. Long story short, that was not a good idea, and that young lady later ended up in legal trouble for setting fire to her boyfriend's house. So I told her, I said, Mother, it does not matter that she goes to church. I'm telling you, it's not a good thing. Okay, so you're right. It's got to be, and by the way, can you find something you don't know what you're looking for? Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah.
You gotta have a plan.
So if you don't know what you're looking for in that person because you don't have it in here, you're going to have a hard time finding it. Very good. Anybody else? This has been fantastic.
Just know that you're always going to mess up, but don't let that define you, because you can always turn things around, no matter how bad it is.
Absolutely. You do realize that, right? And as you get to be in the place of some others, we have to allow people the flexibility. We have to give them the same grace God does, because sometimes we don't do that. You will mess up. I'm thankful. I told y'all what, I don't know if I told y'all, but I have 4 or 5 rules that I go by, period. My students can tell you what they are. Number 1, God first, no questions asked. Number 2, others before yourself, whatever the situation. If when in doubt, refer to rule number 1. Rule number 3 is never, ever, ever, ever do anything on purpose that you know is going to come back to cause you a problem. And rule number 4 is we don't talk about the 80s. Ever. I'm just thankful there was no internet coverage and no Facebook in the 80s. Because I wasn't. Listen, I can quote just about every AC/DC song that there is, and that wouldn't go into and from Bible school. But that doesn't define me. It doesn't define you either. That's an excellent point. And by the way, I don't sing them now, just for clarity's sake. Anybody else? Very good. Good. I'm looking forward to Vacation Bible School. Have you given me my assignment? Am I going to have to dress in a costume? I am?
You're gonna be a manatee one night.
What? Oh, what?
A manatee, but you don't have to dress up, you just have to go with the flow.
Yeah.
She will be a man.
Talk about rape something.
We have videos, we'll show you.
Well, this ought to be fun. Okay, let's end with a word of prayer. Bow with me, please. Almighty God, we are so thankful that you have blessed us with such a opportunity to be a part of a spiritual family that you bless, that through your Son Jesus and his blood and his lordship and his strength, that we are able to draw closer to you as we draw closer to him, and you allow us to draw closer to each other. May we always strive to make good choices and surround ourselves with people who will embrace us spiritually, encourage us spiritually, and enrich us spiritually, so that we will always be servants of yours. I pray that you'll bless each soul in this room tonight. In your Son's name, amen. Thank y'all.